right, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Feel free to let me know what you need.
Great. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you for asking. Let me know how I can assist you today.
Yeah, I'm just hanging out by the pool and about to upload some content to YouTube and just have a little conversation with you today. So I want to talk about what is the purpose of an NFT. So I got my own beliefs and things that I think, but I want to hear like your opinion, like from your viewpoint. What is the purpose of an NFT? And then as the conversation progresses, I'll just like you know give you my input as we go along. So from your standpoint, what do you think of the purpose of an NFT is?
Absolutely, I'm happy to share my perspective. So, from a broad standpoint, the purpose of an NFT is essentially to represent ownership or proof of authenticity of a unique digital item on the blockchain. It's a way to create scarcity and ownership for things that are digital, whether that's art, collectibles, or even access passes. Of course, there's a lot more to it and we can dive deeper, but that's kind of the high level view. Feel free to jump in with your thoughts.
Okay, I agree with that. Who do you think an NFT is benefiting? Like who's benefiting from the NFT and like who is utilizing it and something like that. Give me something.
Sure thing. So, in a more formal sense, you could say that NFTs are benefiting a range of stakeholders. Artists and creators, for instance, benefit by being able to directly monetize their digital work and maintain control over their intellectual property. Collectors and investors benefit because they can hold unique digital assets that may appreciate in value or provide them with certain privileges. And then there are brands and entrepreneurs who utilize NFTs to build community engagement or explore new digital economies. So it's a diverse group of people who are really tapping into NFTs for different reasons.
Yeah, I agree with that again. I have about my NFTs and I think like on so everything you're saying like but there's more to like obviously. What do you think from like a directory standpoint of view? People that buy my NFT is kind of like a business card, and then like I kind of have a directory. So like if you say you have say you have lava head number 77, and then I know what lava head 77 looks like, and I know whose wallet it is, and then I know who you are in real life, and then it starts to create it strengthens the bond between the you and the holder, and then it as far as the directory standpoint and business card, boom. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely, I can elaborate on that. So, if we think about it in a more formal way, what you're describing is essentially an NFT acting as a kind of digital identifier or membership token. It's like a business card in the sense that each NFT can represent a unique holder within your ecosystem. That means you can know who owns which lava head, and that ownership can build a more personalized relationship between you and the holder. From that directory perspective, it means you've got a sort of living ledger of who's involved in your community
Yeah.
and can tailor experience. Certainly, and I think that's a really great way to look at it. Essentially, the NFT becomes a kind of unique identifier that strengthens your direct connection to each holder. It's almost like you're building a curated club where everyone has their own unique token and you know exactly who's who, and that can definitely add a lot of value in terms of personalizing the community experience.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The personalizing an experience for a community member is what really it creates those. How do I want to put it? It creates like one-of-one experiences, that are hard to duplicate. And if you can create those kind of situations for your community members, I'm pretty sure they'd be they'd be pretty happy, and they'll be looking forward to the next one and the next one and the next one. And you always be able to trace back the community members through the NFT, which is the token. And then to take it a step further, if they'd had the token in their wallet for 2, 3 years, you could say, oh, this is a dedicated community member because they've had it for X amount of, months or years. And then you could actually create a ranking system or like a support system based upon like the time length that people have had your NFT in their wallet and it's not moved. What do you think of that?
I think that's a very solid approach, and it definitely makes a lot of sense. In a formal sense, what you're doing is leveraging the NFT as a kind of loyalty marker. The longer someone holds that NFT, the more you can recognize and reward their commitment. It really does create those unique one-on-one experiences for community members and gives them a sense of being valued over time. So I think that's a fantastic way to deepen the relationship and keep track of who your most dedicated members are.
Yeah, facts. And then and then if you have the wallet address, obviously you can see what other things are in the wallet. So if they're holding one NFT, if they're holding 10 or 20, and then they've been holding them for a long time, and then these are all just like measurements you can use to see how engaged community members or holders are in the ecosystem. And then just on a grander scale, let's talk about it being a directory. And so now when I want to go out and collaborate with other communities, they can see the directory of like community members that I've built and engaged with. So as far as like just having a directory of direct support that I can show other like collaborators when I collaborate with people on the blockchain, like how important is that? Can you explain how important that is? Because if you have a bunch of community members in your community that already understand how the blockchain works, you don't have to go teach them how to do certain things because they already know. So having a community that understands how to utilize the blockchain, it just makes your community more valuable than the next because of these steps. Can you tell me more about that?
Absolutely, that's a great point. So in a formal sense, having a directory of engaged and knowledgeable community members essentially creates a foundation of support and expertise within your ecosystem. When you're collaborating or showcasing your community to others, you can demonstrate that you have a group of people who are already well versed in how the blockchain works and are actively participating. In other words, it's a strong signal to potential collaborators that your community is both engaged and knowledgeable. And that makes collaboration smoother because you don't have to spend as much time bringing people up to speed. Ultimately, it does add a layer of value and credibility to your project because you have a community that's not just large, but also well educated and ready to engage at a higher level.
Correct. So now, if I collaborate with some other NFT projects and they say, oh, you have to utilize this, or you got to do this, or send it here, everybody knows how to use the wallet addresses. Everybody knows how to use what chain for what transact. Like, it's just makes everything smoother, like you said. So for sure, that's a fact. So, and this is all like, this all has to do with NFTs. I mean, you could do the same thing with coins too, but it's just like the NFTs are like on a smaller scale because if you got coins and you launch a coin, it's like 20 million or whatever coins versus like a couple thousand NFTs. So not saying that all, like, you could do this with meme coins too and other coins, but I don't know, I just think it's easier to do stuff with NFTs, and this is just pretty much what's the purpose of an NFT. Now we could deep dive on another topic and we'll talk about what's the purpose of a meme coin, but just I'm monologuing at this point. You wanna what's the difference between a meme coin and an NFT? Since I'm just like all over the place right now, we're skipping around topics. What's the biggest difference between NFT and a meme coin?
Of course, let's dive into that. So in a formal sense, the key difference between an NFT and a meme coin really comes down to their structure and purpose. An NFT, or non-fungible token, is unique and not interchangeable with any other token. Each one has distinct properties and can represent ownership of a specific digital item. On the other hand, a meme coin is a type of cryptocurrency that's usually fungible, meaning each unit is the same as every other unit. Meme coins tend to be created as a kind of fun or community-driven currency, often with a humorous or viral element. They're usually more about the broader token economy and less about unique individual assets. So in short, NFTs are unique and one of a kind, while meme coins are uniform and more like a traditional cryptocurrency with a lighter, more playful twist.
Yeah, I'm with the one of one, the NFT, the artwork. I'm with that over anything on the blockchain, really. So I think that the NFTs are the strongest thing that you can really use to build and structure a ecosystem in in 2020. I don't know, maybe like next year or some years later they'll come out with some new technology, but like as of right now, I think that using the NFT is the and it's so simple, because you just mint it and then you have it. So like even if we were talking about a DAO, you still have to there's still extra steps in getting your community involved in the DAO. There's still extra steps in having them stake and do things. There's still extra steps. Like NFT is literally the easiest way to onboard somebody, because you could use crypto.com or Coinbase and you could just buy some Ethereum. That's an easy way. And then having someone mint an NFT, that's probably the second easiest way to onboard somebody. So with that being said, what you think?
I think you've summed it up really well. In a more formal sense, NFTs do indeed offer a very straightforward onboarding pathway. They're relatively easy to understand for newcomers because you just mint it and you have something unique. That simplicity makes it a strong foundation for building a community and an ecosystem. And you're right that while there are other tools like DAOs or staking mechanisms, they do often have more complexity. NFTs are a really accessible way for people to dip their toes into the blockchain world, and from there you can build out more complex layers over time if you want to. So I think you're spot on in seeing NFTs as a very strong tool right now.
All right, so I think we've been going 10 minute, 15 minute, I don't know, something like that. Let me get some feedback on the whole conversation that we've been having from beginning to end. And can you just sum up everything we've been talking about as well?
Absolutely, happy to sum it up for you. So in a nutshell, we started off talking about the general purpose of NFTs, how they represent unique ownership of digital items and serve as a simple onboarding tool into the blockchain world. Then we explored how NFTs can act like a business card or directory for your community, making it easy to track and build relationships with holders over time. We touched on the idea that having a knowledgeable community makes collaboration smoother and adds value to your ecosystem. We also compared NFTs to meme coins, highlighting that NFTs are unique and individual, whereas meme coins are fungible and more like traditional crypto. Finally, we wrapped up with the idea that NFTs are currently one of the simplest and strongest ways to build a community on the blockchain. So that's the summary, and I think you're definitely on the right track with it all.
All right, let's go. I appreciate the conversation, and I'll talk to you later.
Absolutely. Glad we could chat about it, and anytime you want to dive into something else, just let me know. Take care, and talk to you later.
All right, thanks. Man, these flies out here, whatever, these things out here bothering me, eating me up, man. But anyways, yeah, so that was the purpose of an NFT / some other stuff too. So I got some other topics we're going to talk about. I got like 40 or 50 topics right here. I just got to sit down and actually talk about them. Now, y'all know if you go on the channel, I've talked about these topics before, but every day new stuff is happening and meet new people and got to refresh the knowledge. So there's that. Yeah, what's the purpose of the NFT? All right, I'll see y'all in the next one.